Hello everyone, welcome to the series on the history of English literature. And in this video, we are going to discuss conditions in the theatre during interwar years. First of all, introduction. In the aftermath of World War I, the English theatre entered the 1920s in a weakened, uncertain condition. The cultural appetite of the moment leaned strongly toward amusement, escape, and spectacle rather than serious dramatic exploration. At the same time, the theatre faced new rivals, first cinema, then broadcasting, both of which reshaped popular entertainment. Yet the interwar period was not simply a story of decline. Alongside commercial pressures and changing audience tastes, the era also saw determined efforts by visionary individuals and institutions to preserve serious drama, nurture new talent, and widen dramatic participation through amateur theatre and festivals. The low point of serious drama in 1920. By 1920, serious English drama appeared to have lost momentum. Leading playwrights of established reputation had either fallen silent or produced little comparable to their earlier achievements. George Bernard Shaw had written nothing new for the stage since Pygmalion 1913, except Heartbreak House, which was not staged until 1921. Granville Barker had produced no original play for a decade. John Glassworthy, after major works like Justice 1910, did not return to a comparable level until The Skin Game 1920. This absence of fresh, weighty drama created a vacuum in serious theatrical culture, one filled rapidly by forms designed primarily for entertainment rather than artistic seriousness. The demand for escapism, farce, musical comedy, and spectacle. One major reason for the theatre's poor condition was the post-war popular demand for light entertainment. During and after the war, soldiers on leave and exhausted civilian audiences often preferred farce, musical comedy, and visual spectacle. These dominated the London stage and remained popular for years. The continued strength of commercial entertainment was reinforced by major theatrical talents. Ben Travers, 1886, whose farces thrived with accomplished performers such as Tom Walsh, Ralph Lynn, and Robertson Hare. Noel Coward, who could deliver high-quality sophisticated theatre within popular forms, notably Private Lives 1930 and Cavalcade 1931. C.B. Cochran, 1872 to 1951, celebrated for staging spectacle on unprecedented scale. Thus, the interwar stage remained commercially busy, but serious drama struggled to compete for attention. The survival of serious drama, enlightened individuals, and public-spirited theatre. In the early interwar years, serious drama survived largely because of individuals willing to place art above profit. The cause of serious drama depended on a handful of enlightened leaders who sustained standards, trained performers, and built audiences. Lillian Baylis, 1874 to 1937, at the Old Vic Theatre, crucial for classical repertory and accessible serious theatre. Sir Barry Jackson, 1879 to 1961, working in Birmingham and London, associated with repertory ideals and artistic experimentation within discipline. Sir Nigel Playfair, 1874 to 1934, at the Lyric Theatre Hammersmith, another key figure promoting quality theatre. These figures provided institutional shelter for drama that might otherwise have been pushed out by purely commercial trends. The cinema as a major competitor and cultural threat. A new and powerful challenge arrived with the growth of the cinema. which quickly became the entertainment of the masses. Its full impact is difficult to measure, but several effects are clear. The theatre increasingly viewed cinema as a serious competitor. Cinema could offer spectacle and sensation on a scale impossible to stage. The popularity of gangster films and thrill-based entertainment alerted public taste. This rivalry damaged some lesser dramatists who failed to recognize cinema as a distinct art form. Instead of developing theatre's unique strengths, live immediacy, dialogue, psychological tension, they tried to compete with cinema through more lavish stage spectacle, a flood of thriller plays designed to imitate film sensation. Thriller theatre, imitation but also new craft. The theatre's film competition produced an outpouring of stage thrillers, 1882 to 1956, Rope 1929 and Gaslight 1939, Patrick Hamilton 1904 to 62, Murder on the Second Floor 1929, Frank Vosper 1899 to 1937. These works demonstrate that even under commercial pressure, theatre could adapt genre forms into effective stagecraft, especially through suspense, pacing, and the intimacy of live performance. Broadcasting, threat and opportunity. The rise of broadcasting, that is radio, created another complex challenge. On the negative side, potential audiences could stay at home. Drama became cheaper and easier to consume without theatre going. On the positive side, radio drama expanded interest in dramatic art for a broader public. It helped cultivate new audiences who might later attend theatre. It gave dramatists new opportunities in a developing medium. Thus, broadcasting both competed with and indirectly supported the stage, creating a mixed but significant cultural shift. More hopeful developments. Amateur theatre and festivals. Despite commercial pressures, the interwar years also produced signs of renewal and democratization in dramatic culture. A major hopeful feature was the growth of the amateur dramatic movement, supported by institutions designed to spread theatre beyond elite circles. British Drama League, founded 1919, Scottish Community Drama Association. These bodies stimulated participation and interest in drama in all ranks of society, strengthening theatre as a cultural practice rather than only a commercial product. Another important development was the Melbourne Festival, begun 1929, which contributed to regional theatrical vitality and helped create a festival culture that could sustain serious work outside the pressures of the London commercial stage. Conclusion. Interwar English theatre lived under multiple pressures: a post-war hunger for escapism, the commercial dominance of farce and spectacle, and intense competition from cinema and radio. Yet the period also shows resilience. Serious drama endured through the commitment of visionary theatre leaders, while new genres such as the thriller adapted to modern tastes. The growth of amateur movements and festivals widened public engagement and kept dramatic culture alive beyond metropolitan commercial priorities. In this sense, the interwar stage was not merely declining, it was being reconfigured under modern conditions, searching for new audiences, new forms, and renewed stability. So this was the discussion on the conditions in the theatre during interwar years. We will meet in the next video and discuss some other topic. Until then, goodbye and thank you.